If you want to buy a silver bar like one of these, watch this video first so you don't get scammed. What are these? These are called, in Hmong, we call them Nyiaj Choj. In English, they are referred to as Annamese silver bars. Why? Because a lot of them were made in Vietnam, which used to be called Annam. So what we're looking at when we look to purchase an Annamese silver bar, the first thing is you weigh it, and it should weigh at least 375 grams. Now, here I have 10 of them, and they all weigh 375 grams or more except one. Now, depending on where you go in the world, which country, which specific person you talk to, the standards will vary a tiny bit, anywhere from 370 to 380 grams. But 375 seems to be the generally agreed upon term. The only bar here I have that weighs less than 375 grams is this one. It weighs 373 grams. So according to some standards, it is still a true silver bar. In Hmong, we say txog, because some people, again, have that 370 standard. For me, I like to stick in the middle, so 375 grams or more. When it weighs more than 375 grams, we say that 你要一套 or va va. So, silver bar, if you search online in the English-speaking world, you will often see it referred to as weighing 10 lang or 10 taels. And in Hmong, lang, we say la. So we will say 一套, one bar, equals gao la. In Mandarin Chinese, I don't speak Mandarin Chinese, so excuse my pronunciation, but it's liang. And then in Vietnamese, it's lang. So you can see that this vocabulary, these words are loan words throughout East Asia, Southeast Asia, because of the silver trade. In Malaysia, where the Malay language is spoken, and to Singapore, they borrowed a Portuguese word, I believe, tahil. Okay, I'm editing this video right now and I totally misspoke, so I had to double check and correct myself. So Malay is the original language, tahil also means weight, and then Portuguese borrowed from Malay, which makes so much more sense because all this history, it's happening in Asia. And Portuguese turned it into Thais. And then from Thais, English turned it into tael. So that is the correct etymology of the word. It is very important for me to correct it myself as a linguist. Now back to editing. And then English turned that into tael. So you will search online and you'll find that ita, or one bar, sometimes will be referred to as 10 taels or 10 lang as well. Now in one lang, so ila, there are 10 jia, or in Mandarin, zin. Okay, so again, these words are loan words. They're used all around Asia. In Hmong, we say jia. So, yi cha mo gao la, yi la mo gao jia, which means that yi cha mo yi bo jia. So, that's Hmong say nye jia, and that's where that term comes from. Nye jia means nye. Some folks might have proposed that the word 业界 comes from the Chinese or the Mandarin word for money, which is xian, but I think it actually comes from zin, which is because it's referring specifically to silver. So, silver bars, again, this one is 377. How much is that in like US currency? How much is that in US dollars? So if we go to the internet and we look up the market value of silver, these are bullion. They're considered bullion, so 镍99.99%, so they're 99% or more pure. So close to 100%. Silver is today about $2.50 per gram, meaning that 375 grams, or whatever each bar specifically is, times $2.50 puts these bars at about $937.50 each. Now this is just the silver value, okay? These are, as I said, antique silver bars. They're over 100 years old. They were used in the opium trade. They were used throughout Southeast Asia. They each have their own story. That means they also have antique value on top of that. How much that is right now, I'm actually not sure. I don't know if the market knows. Because it used to be that these were 2 times spot value, meaning that about a year or two ago, when silver was $1 per gram, these were each 375 grams times 2, $750 each. You would get twice the spot value. So now they are probably over $1,000, the antique ones, because they have that antique value on top of the silver value. But again, I'm not sure if the market has decided what that is yet. So about $1,000 each though. Let's just use that as a fast, quick, dirty estimate. What could you buy though, historically? Like, what would you buy with these silver bars? So yesterday I talked about how Hmong guns, Hmong muskets here, flintlocks, you would measure the barrel here, seeing how long it is. I daw, we say that finger span is I daw. I a bei blau. This one is 4 daw, which means it would cost historically about 4 Nyiaj Choj. In Hmong culture, when you get married, there is a bride price or dowry, and that would be around, according to my knowledge and talking to the elders, about 3 Choj at the low end. Up to the high end would be about Gao Choj, which is this. This is how much Gao Choj is. But how much money did people actually have back in the day? Now, speaking to my grandpa and other elders, if you had Gao Choj back in the day, remember, people weren't rich back in the day. They were farming. A lot of people lived sustenance lifestyles. This is not just Hmong people, people in general. If you had 10 Choj, that was a decent amount of money. If you had 20 Choj, 30, 40 Choj, you were considered pretty well off. So if you were going to get married, sometimes people had to borrow money. You would borrow Nyiaj Choj to pay the bride price. In terms of like animals, if you went to buy an animal like a pig or a cow, usually Hmong people wouldn't buy those because they would have their own, and if I wanted one from you, I'd ask for your pig and say, you know, when I have more, or next year when my sows give birth, I'll give you one back. So we would help each other a lot. So that is how we would buy livestock, or trade livestock rather. But one livestock that was somewhat common to purchase with silver bars were horses. And horses would run, depending on the size and the pedigree and what you were looking for, anywhere from 3 to 6 Nyiaj Choj. So if you say that one bar is $1,000, just to make the value easy to work with. Let's say 5 Choj horse would be $5,000. Let me look how much a horse costs nowadays. How much does a horse cost? A horse typically costs between $1,500 and $10,000. So it looks like inflation hasn't changed it that much. But with that, we'll leave it at that for today, okay? Nyiaj Choj, or Annamese silver bars, there's so much to learn about them, especially the antique, the cultural, the anthropological, the historic, all of these things. There's so much to learn about them. Today, we're just simply covering the value of them in today, as well as a little bit in the past, how much they weigh, and some vocabulary that is shared among Hmong, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and a few other languages. So with that, remember, the most important thing is that it weighs 375 grams or more. Ito go la ipo. Thank you for learning today.